Hello, Gale Nation, and welcome to episode 2 of Chat and Chill. I'm your host, Elena Demos, and I'm joined today by my friend Alvin Clayton. Alvin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Elena. I'm so excited to be with you. This is fun.
Yes. So, why don't we start off the show? Alvin, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Did you grow up in New Rochelle? How are you involved in the community?
Okay, well, no, I wasn't born in New Rochelle. I actually was born in Trinidad, and I grew up. Left Trinidad at the age of 14. Grew up in Washington D.C. Was a soccer player. Went to Mount St. Mary's University. Hey, I know that is one of your rivals. But
Yes, yes.
but I did go to Mount St. Mary's, and actually, after college, I moved to New York. I was a Ford and Wilhelmina and Ford model for many years. Then I moved out to Los Angeles, where I had a restaurant with Denzel Washington and a couple of celebrities, Debbie Allen, Brad Johnson. And then when the restaurant closed, I moved back here to New Rochelle and opened a restaurant in the downtown New Rochelle area called Alvin and Friends. For the last 15 years, we've been running that restaurant, of which that's kind of how we became friends, you and I, and
Yes.
with your grandma coming in there and,
Yep.
and us breaking bread together.
Yes. No, Alvin and Friends, if you haven't been, everyone go. It's an amazing restaurant, amazing staff. Alvin's awesome. He'll come over, he'll chit chat with you. It's just overall a great vibe, So, all right. So you've lived a lot of different places. So what was your favorite place to live? And then how does where you grew up compare to living here in New Rochelle now?
Okay. So, well, we're in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
We ran wild. It was like the best place to be born, in my opinion. It was like it laid the foundations for who I am as a person. The values that I have was gotten there from my parents, my grandparents. My favorite place to live was, I have to say, Paris. I while I was modeling, I frequent Paris quite a few times for to do the shows and different things like that. So that's my favorite city. But I do love New Rochelle. I love the diversity of New Rochelle. I love, I see the town changing tremendously. I don't know, the verdict's still out on that, whether it's good or bad, but it's moving. It's the people that makes it, and we're very much a part of the community. So I love being here.
That's good. So you mentioned how you did modeling. What got you into that?
Well, I was never really interested in modeling so much. I mean, I played soccer. I was a goalkeeper, All-American at Mount St. Mary's University. I got drafted by San Diego actually after college. And but the year that I was supposed to go out for a tryout was when they folded the outdoor soccer league. They had the indoor league, but as a goalkeeper, I wasn't interested in being a goalkeeper in an indoor soccer league. A friend of mine that I went to college with, he was a Wilhelmina model. He always thought that I could probably model, and he was always trying to get me to do it. So I have a degree in secondary English education, psychology, and I wasn't ready to teach at the time. So I said, hey, my friend's name was Colin. I said, Colin, you think your agency would be interested in seeing me? And he said, yeah, I think they would. So I came to New York. I met Wilhelmina. There was back at that time, it's very difficult for African Americans to be in the modeling industry. So they were a little bit tentative, and they said, we'll try you out a little bit. And the rest is history. I had like a 30 plus year career. So.
Wow. And then do you still do some modeling today, or more like the restaurant?
Not really, mostly restaurant, but I'm also an artist.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So right now I feature mostly my my restaurant experience and my art. Last summer, I was the featured artist at the Southampton African American Museum. I've actually had 2 one-man shows here at the gallery, Iona College
That's
Gallery.
right. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. They were very successful shows. And I just came back from Trinidad doing a art show there, actually. And it was really great. Got some TV interviews, newspaper articles written on the show. And moving and shaking, man.
That's
like you.
awesome. No, that's really cool though. And it's like, it's cool how like you've had all these experiences where you've lived and they've sort of all kind of brought you to like where you are now with like the modeling, the restaurant business, which I want to kind of dive more into that. So, first of all, obvious question, like what got you into the restaurant business? What made you say, "All right, I did the modeling, I have the artwork, but I want to move to the restaurant side of things."
Okay, so basically, after modeling for as many years as I've had been, I'm really off of the regular workforce for that time. So, like about 15 years into modeling, one of my friends that actually I modeled with, um, she's now passed away. She unfortunately passed away for cancer, but she was a very beautiful, successful model. Her name was Gail O'Neill. So we were on a Macy's shoot actually, and she said to me, she goes, "So Alvin, what do you think you're going to do after modeling?" And I said, "Well, I've been off of the workforce. Maybe I know how to cook." I said, "When I first started modeling, I worked as a waiter. I like that. I like people. Maybe I'll open a restaurant." So at that time, her boyfriend, Brad Johnson, actually, he was a restaurateur, and she introduced me to him, and he took a liking to me and told me he was working on this project in Los Angeles, a new restaurant, and asked me if I would like to invest as an investor. So I did, and I actually learned back of the house operations from him. And thus, it was a celebrity based restaurant. So, as I said before, some of the partners were Denzel Washington, Debbie Allen, Norm Nixon, that played for the Lakers, Lou Adler, who opened the Roxy in LA. And yeah, so it was a really cool group of people, successful restaurant. We were open for 7 years. We didn't own the building, so the building was sold from under us, and the new landlord, basically, the new rent made no sense. So we basically closed the restaurant, and that's when I moved back from California to New York and New Rochelle.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like, getting your start in the restaurant business with all these famous celebrities? Like, were there any, challenges you faced, any ups, any downs,
Well, the thing with opening a celebrity restaurant is that, well, we had some good people there. So when you have a celebrity base, this country is kind of based on celebrities. People kind of want to be in their presence. So the restaurant
Right.
was successful because of that. But what I noticed at the restaurant was that, the partners, they basically took care of all the celebrities. I mean, and almost every celebrity that you can think of at the time came through our restaurant. To drop some names, Julia Roberts,
Oh,
How
wow.
About Julia, Warren Beatty, Sidney Poitier, Sean Connery. I mean, every relevant celebrity, Madonna used to come in there. Everybody came in, and
Awesome.
so but I noticed that people took care of those people, and I was like of the ilk, like everybody, it's the same money, so
Yes.
I took care of everybody else,
Right. Right.
and made them feel like they were celebrities. And so
Yeah.
I have like a stack of cards of people writing to me after they've left the restaurant saying, "Hey, thank you so much for making us feel so special at the restaurant."
Yeah.
And I said, whenever I do a restaurant on my own, everybody that walks in there is going to feel like they're a celebrity. And so that's why at my restaurant, Alvin and Friends at 14 Memorial Highway, New Rochelle, shameless plug. If I'm there, I go to every table and greet
Yeah.
every guest, and it's a cool vibe. The energy is great. It's you well know.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. No. I mean, every time we go, I remember the first time I went with grandma, grandpa. I remember, um, Alvin came over, and when you're a restaurant owner, like you're busy, you got all these people to talk to. He pulled up a chair and was just sitting talking with us for 20 minutes. And so that's why I always love going, because I'm like, even if Alvin is not there, everyone is still so amazing. His wife Gwen works at the restaurant. She'll come and talk to us. So it's just nice. You feel like you're a part of a family in a sense. But so why don't we talk a little bit about Alvin and Friends more, a little bit about like, how you got it started, um, any challenges with starting a restaurant, especially in like a downtown area, that's very busy, but also kind of like what inspired the idea, and how's business now?
Well, so like 15 years ago when I first started the restaurant, it wasn't like the best economy to be starting a new business. And the downtown New Rochelle looked very different than it does today. There were very few restaurants actually around at the time. I think we were one of the first restaurants that had fine dining, with the white tablecloths and stuff like that, which actually came about kind of like almost by an accident because I just didn't have enough money to get really great looking tables. So I covered them with white tablecloths, and people are like, oh, wow, white tablecloth, and so we had that vibe going. And I knew it was really important. A lot of times back then, a lot of people from the North End weren't really coming down to downtown New Rochelle for several, different reasons, whatever. New Rock had a little bit of a bad rap back at the time. And so I knew I wanted to do a restaurant, and I wanted it to be a restaurant that was diverse and represented the community of New Rochelle. And so I knew I had to find a location that people felt safe to coming. And, the library, everybody goes to the library.
Yes.
So I figured if I found something around the library, that's like a safety zone. So that's what I did, so that the grandma that's coming from Waikiki would feel comfortable coming down there. And so that's what we did. And we opened it. I was actually on Lawton Street when I first opened the restaurant. And, the buzz started coming around. We got reviews from the New York Times. I mean, they gave the review from the New York Times. If somebody had told me, hey, Alvin, write your own review for the New York Times and we'll just print it, I couldn't have done it any better. It was like they gave me 4 out of 4 stars, and it just like blew up the restaurant.
Awesome.
So we were very blessed from the time we were open, but we also have, and we still continue to have a really great product. We're making some changes right now with the restaurant to kind of like, adjust to the changes in the neighborhood. There's a lot of younger people coming in, so we're going to actually making more of a vibe type neighborhood drop in, and then we're going to do the fine dining. We have a back room, so we're going to do a fine dining to the back room. To the front, we're going to put an extra TV in there because your generation is very visual.
Yes, yes.
And your attention span is not very long.
Yes, that is true. That is true. That is true.
So I'm adjusting to you guys, and you want to sample everything. You want to be kind of be in control. So we're going to do more kind of tapas type dishes for the front, where you can come in with a group and you can share stuff. And the price point's also going to be much more affordable, so that if you want to come 3-4 times a week, you can without breaking the bank. And it's just a really great vibe. We have a great patio area in front of the restaurant. It's walking distance from the train station, and we're right across from the library. So, I think we're situated really well. And I think with the changes that I'm planning to make, I think it's going to be the go-to space for the downtown.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And I can attest to like being part of like the younger generation, like having a place like that to go. Like I was telling my friends, they've never been, and some of them are not from the area, so they haven't heard about it. But I'm like, no, we got to go. Like, trust me, it's really fun, great food. And I know, speaking of food, I'm unfortunately blanking on the name, but I know there was a dish that you had put together yourself for the restaurant.
Well, I do a lot of stuff. So one of the dishes that I just recently created was a jerk hummus.
Ooh,
so,
wow.
And we have these fried bakes in Trinidad. And so I cut the fried bakes up in strips, and then I fried it. So that's the dipping for the hummus. It's been a huge hit. We've got, I'll tell you, the best wings ever.
That's true. I've had the wings.
I have a rum punch recipe that I have at the restaurant. And so we've converted into like a sauce, like almost like a barbecue sauce, but it's a rum punch wing sauce. And that sauce won best wings at Wing Fest that Westchester Magazine did. So all you wing lovers, come on down and listen to Elena. She knows what she's talking about.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, I know. No, that's really cool. And I think it's also nice, like when you open a restaurant, because opening a restaurant is a gamble.
Oh, it's a big challenge. There's an 80% failure rate within the first year for restaurants.
Yeah.
And so, and there's a lot of different things that go to that, but we were very blessed. But taking care of people and making people feel welcome and secure and giving them a good product is halfway there to helping sustain your restaurant.
Right. And then All right. So we are going to take a quick ad break and then we will be back to talk more.
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, I'm Morgan Beastie from the Ionian, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Are you looking for the latest scoop on campus news, sports, and more? Check out the Ionian, Iona University's very own award-winning student newspaper. We keep you up to date with everything happening on and off campus. Want to know about the big game, the latest campus event? It's all in the Ionian. Join the conversation. Read, write, and get involved. Visit www.theionian.org or pick up a copy around campus. Stay informed, stay connected. Now, back to WIUR, Iona University Radio.
All right, we are back. So, last time we left off, we were talking about Alvin and Friends, Alvin's restaurant, great restaurant, and we're talking about the wings a little bit. But so I know you mentioned you're making some changes to the restaurant. So are these changes you had been thinking about for a while, or are these changes that, in the past couple of years have started to come to mind?
It's been twofold. I mean, I've been thinking of making some changes for a while, but with all the development going downtown, our building was also slated for development, and it was going back and forth. And so at one point, I wasn't sure if we were going to be there for a long time, so I didn't want to put good money after bad if we weren't going to be there. Those deals are no longer on the table, so now I can actually take my time and actually focus on the things that I think that I need to do in order to stay current with what's going on with the downtown, and and give the neighborhood what they need. I mean, that's the whole thing with business. Whatever business you do, you got to ask yourself, is it something that the community needs? And what's purpose are you serving with it? So I think we're a brand name in Westchester. And so I think with the changes that we're doing right now, I think if nothing else, people will give me a shot to kind of figure out, okay, what direction we're going in, and do I like these new changes or whatever. So I'm really optimistic about that. Excited, like
Good.
if I'm opening the restaurant for the first time again.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. That's really cool. Definitely going to check it out. So in the downtown area of New Rochelle where you are, there is, art around you, different artwork, and I know you have your own artwork as well. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about that? What got you into the art world?
So I've always been a lover of art. I mean, from the time I was a child in the Caribbean. However, back in my day, you couldn't tell your parents you wanted to be an artist.
Right.
It was like, you need to get a job. So, but anyways, I always kept in that love of art in my heart. I would always draw wherever I went. And so actually, when I was an adult modeling and I was in Paris, I went to Musée d'Orsay, and I absolutely fell in love with the paintings of Henri Matisse, the French Impressionist. And so much so that actually my daughter's name is Matisse. That's how much I love Matisse's work.
Aww.
And so I started copying his work. So I'm a self-taught artist, teaching myself how to paint. And then I just branch off into doing my own paintings, of family members and friends and stuff like that. And from my modeling days, there was a show on CNN called CNN House of Style. And Elsa Clinch, who was a host of that show, she featured normally the collections in Paris, and she would feature the designers, Saint Laurent, Giorgio Armani, all these different people. But a few of her segments she did on successful models, and I happened to be one of her stories that she did back in the day. And when she was featuring me as one of her subjects, my first art show had just opened in Soho.
Oh, wow.
And so she covered the show as part of the story. And that's kind of how the whole art as a actual career came into being. So, CNN went all over the world. And so people saw this show in Japan and all these different places. And so people were calling me wondering where they can buy my art. And that's kind of how it grew into something.
That is really cool. That is really cool. So with like artwork, what goes into creating a piece? How do you come up with the ideas? How does each piece differ? Are there any pieces that, you've worked on something and you're like, all right, this work specifically, inspired this next work?
So for the first idea is like our humanity, right? I have family members, I have friends. There's certain feelings that I get from them, and I want to kind of like keep those feelings in the paintings. And so I do portraits and stuff like that. However, in the last several years, I think we've gotten so divided in this country, on both sides, and so I've done some political pieces. Actually, Iona featured me in a show. I had a one-man show during COVID.
Mhm.
That was a political show. It was called Unapologetically Me. Madeline, who was the curator at the time at Barbera, at the gallery,
Mhm.
featured, and actually it went viral and actually did very well. And actually, IMG Modeling Agency, they had seen that show, and they started representing me again after I'd kind of retired from modeling. And so I did that with them for 3 years. We've now like parted ways, but that show kind of like that was the catalyst for that happening. But everything that I paint now. So initially, when I painted, it was family members and friends. It was like just touching humanity or whatever. Then we got into the political sphere, and now I'm in a space where everything that I paint has deeper purpose. Like I ask myself questions: why am I painting this? Why is it important? And what am I trying to say? And how does it bring us together in our humanity? And so, even if you look at the simplest of paintings, there's something in there. If you look deep, you'll find it's a message and a story that it's telling us.
Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, and I've seen pieces of your artwork and they're all really cool. And I know you have some around the restaurant.
Yeah, the whole restaurant is decorated with my paintings, actually. And I've actually had my paintings featured in films. One of the last films that The Best Man Holiday, which Malcolm Lee, who's actually a New Rochelle resident, wrote and directed. Um, and so my paintings are featured in there. I've done like about 7 different films where they've used my artwork as well.
Wow. I actually never do that. That's actually really cool. So are there any current pieces you're working on now? Any ideas you have for future pieces?
So, I mean, once again, I think our political climate is a little bit cloudy, and depending on what side of the aisle you're looking at, you have a different perspective. And so, my whole thing is, I mean, from my point of view, I see a lot of who I am and what I've gone through, and people that have gone before me have gone through, is trying to be canceled somewhat. And so there's 2 choices, right? I can choose to paint that and be in a dark space, and I don't want to be in that dark space because that's not my personality. So what I have decided to do is to do the pushback. So if you're going to try and cancel something, I will celebrate that in my paintings. So, and for me, those are positive images. My dance, my you know. My art form, those are all positive images to me. So I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to celebrate the good things and have that be antithetical to what people are trying to push back on.
That's really cool. That's really interesting. Like, and the artwork too, like how you said, like if you look deeper, there's a deeper meaning to it. Like I think that's something like definitely like looking at your art pieces, I'd see them and I'd be like, all right, but I know there's a story or a background that he's trying to tell, which I think is really, really cool. So you have the artwork, you have the restaurant, the modeling, but so are there any other ways you're involved in the community of New Rochelle aside from obviously the restaurant business? Is there anything you want to be getting involved in?
Well, we participate in everything. I mean, we're involved with the high school. If they come to us, we're helpful for that. The colleges, if they come to us, we're helpful for that. I think anything that promotes our community in a positive light that we can help out with, we are very much involved with that. And just a quick thing about the art again.
Yeah.
You talked about how you feel when you look at the art,
Yeah.
right? And I'm obviously a person of color. You're obviously a white person,
Right.
but everyone that looks at my art, they get the humanity of the art.
Right.
And
Yes.
it transcends color. And the reason it
course.
transcends color is because our humanity is more important than anything else. And we
Yes.
all experience the same humanity.
Mhm.
And I think if we get in touch with that, art is not, it becomes colorblind because you respond to the feeling. We've all hug our
Right.
loved ones or whatever, right? We all know how that feels, how
Right.
that looks. And so that's what we respond to.
Right. No, I think that's really beautiful. I think that's really, really beautiful. That's awesome. That's awesome. You have such an interesting life. You like, I was like, because I was like, I texted Alvin. I'm like, hey, do you want to do my radio show? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I know it's going to be an interesting episode because he's like lived in so many places. You have the restaurant, you have the artwork, the modeling. Like it's amazing. Like when I first met him, like within 20 minutes, I was like, this guy's so interesting. But so I know you have 2 daughters, right?
Yeah,
Two
two
daughters?
daughters and 2 sons, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have any of them wanted to or shown interest in following in your footsteps with either artwork, restaurant, modeling, anything like that?
So I have so my kids are kind of all artistic, I mean,
Mhm.
in some form. And when they were all younger, they all modeled and did very well. But as adults, they haven't really wanted to do it. But my youngest daughter, she's a singer, and you all should check her work out. She's really amazing. Her name is Issa Blues. She's on all the streaming platforms. Great music. You should check it out, Issa Blues. Then my daughter Matisse she writes and she's takes great photos. She worked with WME, William Morris Endeavor for a while. My son Oliver works at Clash TV, and he's he's a creative guy. And then my oldest Timothy, he's a techie. He he
Yeah,
does
that's really cool.
yeah. So everybody's kind of like in the dance. They did dance when they were younger. Oliver can go on the piano and listen to a song and just play it. It's like I wish I had that
Amazing.
skill.
I know, me too.
But I'm proud of my kids and they're all artsy in some form.
That's good.
Yeah.
Are any of them involved in the restaurant in any way?
Right now, Matisse, after my my favorite artist, she actually has been helping me. So come on down and see her. She's one of the bartenders at the restaurant right now.
Yes,
And
I
so
have met
she's been
her.
helping.
She's
She's
really
been
sweet.
helping me out with that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool how like having family involved too and everything.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So have you ever thought about, you have the one restaurant, have you ever thought about like, hey, maybe I'll open another restaurant?
Well, people have asked me several times, especially when they come from a different state and they see what I've created here in New Rochelle, and they just love the vibe and they love the way they feel. They love the way that we make them feel. They love the food, and they're like, "Oh, Alvin, you need to open this here. You need to open this here." But I really believe that the success of Alvin and Friends is because I'm there,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
I can have people do the food, and anybody can do food someplace else. But that special feeling that you feel when you come into our restaurant, or unless you have somebody giving you that in another space, it's not going to be the same.
Exactly.
And they have to have that feeling. However, there's one of the new buildings that's just opening, getting ready to break ground. They've actually approached me about doing a restaurant in the building. It's in the early stages, but that is a possibility that I probably will do something else because I've always wanted to do, I'm not going to mention it, but a really cool restaurant idea that I have.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
I'll probably look into doing something like that.
That would be really cool. That'd be really cool. Now, I've always found the restaurant business very interesting because, like I was saying earlier, like it is a gamble. You're either gonna, like you said, like the first year's 80% fail, but I think definitely that piggybacking on how you're saying, like, when you walk in, making you feel special when you go into the restaurant. Like, I've had my own personal experience. Like, I know when I go there, I'm like, we're gonna have fun. It's good food, good people, and I think it's really it's nice and it's a good place. But anyways, well, unfortunately, we do have to wrap up. But Alvin, thank you again so much for taking the time to come and talk. I think you gave us a lot of great information. You have had such a cool life. You know what I mean? I'm always like, this guy is so cool. So I was like, I want the second episode to be interesting. I'm like, so I'm gonna call Alvin on.
Well, I thank you for having me on, and I don't know you guys. I mean, this is small college. Like, I went to a small college, and so it's very personal. If you guys haven't met Elena, go meet her. And there's a man behind the scenes, Pete kept us in line, and
Pete.
You all got to see Pete too.
Yep.
No, it was great. I mean, it went by so quickly.
I know, right? I know. Maybe we'll see if we could do a special at like Alvin's or something. That'd be kind of cool.
You're all welcome. So come on down, Alvin.
Definitely.
And Friends. We're open Wednesday through Sunday.
Yep.
And on Fridays and Saturdays we have live music.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We have a jazz brunch every Sunday.
Yep.
Bring your parents. Bring yourselves. Come have some fun.
All right. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you.